mentioned, Nehru himself personally interviewed Nayudamma and asked Nayudamma that he would be the youngest person to head a national institute, and asked him point blank what Nayudamma proposed to do to develop the age-old leather industry. That was the question put to him. Nayudamma replied, I shall endeavor to infuse scientific temper, because scientific temper, these are the two words which Nehru likes most. I shall endeavor to infuse scientific temper to the tradition-bound leather industry being pursued by the socially and economically downtrodden leather artisans and help in their socio-economic uplift. Nehru was impressed with this reply, and Nayudamma was confirmed as the director of DGCSR. 13 years later, again, I think Indira Gandhi has given him a position. I want to skip all that. But JNU has left some kind of not so palatable experiences to him. He has preferred to come back to work as a scientist, honorary scientist or something in CLRI, and try to pursue his scientific pursuits. Fate has decided otherwise. I am very happy my alumni, Andhra University, conferred on Nayudamma an honorary doctorate, and also Venkateswara University, including Sambalpur University. These are the honors which he has received, and he was fellow of several of the Indian science societies and academies, including those of China and other countries. And he has published more than 200 papers, but as Prasad puts it, all of them are really useful. And he has written a chapter which is proudly published in the Encyclopedia Britannica on the technology transfer. I wish all of you read that. And he got something like 20 patents for CLRA. He got 20 patents for CLRA. Venkatraman, or Venkat Subramanian, he said, I don't know, it is for our chief guest, Sir Venkatraman, who was former Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University and also member Planning Commission, he said in the year 2001 that a university in this country should be named after Dr. Nayudamma in his memory for the wonderful scientific research he has done. I take this opportunity to earnestly request you, sir, to move the matter and see that one of the central universities in this country, because most of the central universities are named after the state, instead, at least give some kind of push. A recognition is done to this pupil scientist by naming one of the universities after his. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Words. I'm sure your highlights on life of Nayudamma would benefit the young researchers here and motivate them. I now call upon Dr.A.Jagadeeswh, Director, Nayudamma Center for Development Alternatives, to read the citation of this Nayudamma Award 2014.
To read the citation on one of the distinguished scientists, Dr. Kande Yumkela. The dream of every developing country is to be modernized, to live as people live in the UK, for example. They can't do it without energy, but as 60 to 70% of greenhouse gas emissions come from energy-related activities, we need transformation. Towards this end, Dr. Kande Yumkela has been working for the last 2 decades. Dr. Kande Yumkela is UN Under-Secretary General and Secretary General's Special Representative for Sustainable Energy for All and CEO of the initiative. Dr. Yumkela's passion for energy and environment-related causes have been noted around the world. His leadership has been recognized for bringing renewed and vital focus to global energy issues and his help in coordinating the United Nations response to energy issues. Along with members of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's high-level group on sustainable energy for all, he has played a major role in highlighting the need for universal access to energy as well as increased energy efficiency and enhanced deployment of renewable source of energy, which form the 3 major goals of the SC for All. He is charged with galvanizing the world community, governments, global business, and civil society to rally around and support Mr. Ban's energy initiative. Dr. Kande Yumkala's commitment on energy for all is total. We must ensure that the energy poor have access to clean, reliable, affordable, and modern energy services, feels Dr. Yumkala. Providing global energy access to sustainable energy is not a luxury, but a necessity. It will help to lift millions out of poverty. We can do it while making progress on preventing dangerous climate change by relying more strongly on cleaner sources of energy, including renewable energy and low greenhouse gas emitting fossil fuel technologies, according to Dr. Yumkala. Dr. Kande Yumkala was born on July 5, 1959, in Kaikom, Cambia district in Sierra Leone. From a least developed country, he emerged as a great son of Africa by dint of diligence, hard work, dedication, commitment, and integrity to transform economies and societies around the world. Above all, he is a fine human being. Scholarship combined with humility is dignity. Dr. Yumkala's thoughts and deeds are known for practical insight and foresight. His leadership of the Sustainable Energy for All program is a natural progression of the way he accorded priority to renewable sources of energy as development alternatives during the course of making those alternatives as part of the current transformative shift from the carbon age of the 20th century to green age of the 21st century. Vision without action is a daydream, and action without vision is a nightmare. Dr. Yumkala's mastermind of a rare order combines unique blend of both vision and action towards using renewable sources of energy as development alternatives for the cause of fostering sustainable development. He is strongly convinced that if those alternatives are ignored, there is no alternative to development. Dr. Yumkala held several global positions, including Director General, UNIDO, 2005 to 2013. A PhD in Agricultural Economics from University of Illinois and MSc from Cornell University. Dr. Yumkala won several international awards, and notable among them the Prix de la Foundation of the Crans Montana Home Lifetime Achiever Award, Green, White, and Blue Commission's Madhuri and Jagadish Young Seth International Alumni Award for Exceptional Achievement, University of Illinois Urbana Campaign. President Nayudamma Award is an additional feather to his cap of personal, professional glory, which is highly commended and recognized by several institutions and leaders across the countries and continents. Dr. Kande Yumkala is a prominent public speaker who addresses global issues including poverty reduction, climate change, the Millennium Development Goals, as well as those related to Africa and the developing world in general, green industry, and renewable energy. Dr. Yumkala's opinion pieces have appeared in major international newspapers, including the New York Times, the International Herald Tribune, and the Guardian. He has also appeared on several international broadcast networks, including CNN's Amanpour program, BBC, Sky News, and CNBC. Today, Dr. Kande Yumkala is honored for his work on a variety of global issues, including promoting sustainable energy for all, poverty reduction, climate change, and the advancement of the Millennium Development Goals by Nayudamma Center for Development Alternatives, NELLORE, Andhra Pradesh, India, with the Nayudamma Award for 2014, given this day, 13th November 2014 at Chennai.
Venkaiah Naidu, Honorable Minister, Urban Development, Parliamentary Affairs, Government of India, to present the citation and the Nayudamma 2014 Award. Big assurance. Go. And there's a side. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. PowerPoint presentation. Yes.
Excellency Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, Honorable Minister, Dr. Jagadish, Dr. Prasad, Dr. Rayo, Madam Venkat, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I feel humbled, I feel honored to receive this award on behalf of my staff and also the partners of Sustainable Energy for All. I want to thank you for giving me this honor, but I recognize that whenever I'm giving an honor in Chennai, it means they're telling me I have to go work harder again. It's the second time I'm coming to this city to be honored, granting me this opportunity to do more and inspiring me to serve humanity as I go forward. I also feel very privileged that it is done in the name of Professor Dr. Nayudamma, a man who you've heard was a great scientist, but a man who more importantly put himself at the service of his people and the service of humanity. I can say that thanks to him and many others who established the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, I was given the privilege 20 years later to be the first Black African Director General of that agency at a very young age. So you can say that in fact, Dr. Nayudamma's vision touched Africa as well and touched me personally. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here on this day and receive. The lecture that I will give is basically to inspire and motivate the young men and women in this audience, the young men and women scientists. Because the Secretary General of the United Nations is convinced that given some of the challenges we face in the world, we need new thinking, we need new business models, we need science and technology to be applied in many spheres for us to be able to deal with alternative development. So I'll run down a few slides. Many of those will not be news to you, but I want to underline, if you don't remember anything I said, I'll just echo what Minister Venkaiah Naidu said. We need speed and we need scale. Many things are happening today, but not at the speed and scale we need to face the global challenges that lie ahead of us. Give you some numbers. We're about 7 billion today. We will be 9 billion by 2050. We need to increase food production by 75% to feed those 9 billion people. But energy demand is going to increase. 50, 60%, maybe more. But we know, as Professor Jagadish said, 60 to 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from energy production and energy use. If we increase that energy demand and we try to supply the energy in the old way we used to do it, we will all find a room in climate hell. We need you, the scientists, to see how we can grow, meet the demand for food and energy and everything else, but keep this world below 2 degrees. So first question, can we achieve growth, sustainability, and at the same time achieve lower greenhouse gas emissions? Some say yes, some say no. For those of you who are students and researchers, you can go back. September 23rd, we launched a new report in New York, put together by a number of scientists and policymakers, called the New Climate Economy Report. They believe we can do it, provided we do things differently. And one of those things we need to do differently is, in fact, produce and use energy differently. But that's their opinion. For you, the young scientists, question is, how will we do it? At the same time, we need to achieve inclusive growth. I think Minister talked a lot about that. In India, many poor people still, but the rest of the world, there's a lot of poor people as well. How can we do the growth and be inclusive, lift more people out of poverty as we go forward? Achieve greater industrialization, that's what Professor Nayudamma represented, value addition to level, meaning industrialization, and at the same time achieve prosperity for all. These are big challenges, huge, because we want to deal with climate change, but we still want prosperity. We want to live like the rich countries of the OECD. Next year is a landmark year for the world. To answer those two questions I raised at the beginning, we've been negotiating to achieve a climate deal. We are hoping that in Paris, in November 2015, we'll have a deal. A deal that will make sure we stay below 2 degrees. In other words, we deal with climate change. Will we get it? We'll see. If the 193 countries can have a deal that we're all proud of, that will not hand over a global catastrophe to you, the next generation. In other words, our generation owe you not to hand over our responsibility over the next few decades. We'll see if we get this deal. So you should watch out for that. But remember, we've been negotiating for 20 years, so Paris will be 21 years. After 21 years, can we have a deal? 2015 September, we're supposed to come out with a new development agenda. A development agenda that is inclusive, that will replace the Millennium Development Goals. A development agenda that will replace the Millennium Development Goals. But there are two different deals or agreements. When we adopted the Millennium Development Goals, they were adopted as a deal between the South, the poor countries, and the rich countries. So it was basically an idea, how do we end poverty, high maternal mortality, end hunger, how do we help the poor people of the world? The new deal we need to do, which we call the post-2015 development agenda, is different. It is supposed to be an inclusive deal, a deal among 193 countries that is a bigger social contract that is not about helping the poor. It is about helping humanity. Because we need to lift people out of poverty, but we also need to deal with climate change and something Professor Jagadeeswh mentioned, resource scarcity. There is not enough resources to go around the world for the 9 billion people we're going to have if we continue to consume it and use it the way we've done for the past 100 or so years, where we thought everything was in plenty. That's not the reality today. There is indeed a real danger of resource scarcity. Of course, you the scientists will say, Dr. Yumkela is talking about Malthusian period. Well, thanks to technology, we beat Malthus. But with climate change and others, we better move fast and at a major scale with alternative development paths. Otherwise, yes, there will be climate help, production systems will drop, and we will not have enough a planet where you, the young generation, can enjoy as much as our generation did. Watch out for that, but that's politics. In other words, the scientific evidence is there from the space NASA people, from the Indian scientists and others, that the way we are producing energy will take us to above 2 degrees. We're already on a path to 6 degrees. That the way we consume natural resources, we're destroying ecosystems too fast. The evidence is there. Now can the politics be such that we get a deal that will help economies grow, lift people out of poverty, but be environmentally friendly and sustainable? You need politics to get a grand deal based on the evidence from the science. My two bosses, the Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon puts it this way. The bridge between climate change and sustainable development, he says, is energy. You need energy transformation and a revolution to solve climate change. At the same time, you need energy to run the hospitals properly, energy to run the schools and the universities, to process the food, to transport the food, to run the hospitals as well. And you might ask, if that is so, how come when we declared the Millennium Development Goals, we didn't mention energy? We used to say energy is the missing Millennium Development Goal. It is because we took energy for granted. This time we don't want that to happen. So the Secretary General says energy is the golden thread that connects economic growth, increased social equity, and an environment that allows the world to thrive. The president of the World Bank, who is a medical doctor by training, an expert in infectious diseases, immediately he took over the World Bank. He joined Sustainable Energy for All as one of the leaders. And he says, ending poverty and ensuring sustainability are the defining challenges of our time. Energy is central to both. In other words, it is that bridge for growth, prosperity, and also at the same time, environmental sustainability. Now here are the numbers. Here is the reality. So I just focus on energy. I leave out all the other issues of alternative development. Let me just focus on energy. The world we have today, these are the numbers. 1.3 billion people have no access to electricity. About 2.6 or 2.7 billion do not have clean cooking solutions. They use biomass, cow dung, charcoal, and anything they could find. Most of the energy poor are in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. In fact, in sub-Saharan Africa, 620 million people, no electricity. Another 300 to 350 million in India. So between the Indians and us Africans, we have most of the energy poor. This we should not have in the 21st century. Our people need access to energy if they're going to live a prosperous life, because energy enables everything else. But here is the other impact. Because of the use of biomass, we have 4.3 million premature deaths every year due to household air pollution. 4.3 million is more than HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. It's a silent tsunami. 80% of the fatalities are women and children. I'm sure it's not strange for the women in the audience. They do the cooking over that fire, and they inhale those toxic fuels. But there is misalignment also in incentives in the energy system around the world. Look at how much we're spending on subsidizing existing fossil-based technologies. Almost 500 billion. I am sure if Professor Jagadish got 1 billion a year to do research, he'll electrify India with alternative energy. But he doesn't get that. This is what others are enjoying. So the playing field is not level. We're dealing with old technology, we're subsidizing it, but the alternatives that could take us to that green path, we're not providing enough R&D support. This one is a new slide we just made about 2 months ago for the World Water Forum in Sweden. About 3,000 experts on water and ecosystems. These are some of their numbers. You see the water poor. Those who do not have access to clean water and sanitation are almost the same people who do not have access to clean cooking and also electricity. You need electricity to pump that water, to clean that water and recycle. And as we become more and more organized, the cost of that energy is going to go up. This I just put up there to make a link, what we call the nexus. The nexus between energy access, access to clean water, and in fact, food security. So for the researchers in this world, you can Google nexus. A number of our partners now are looking at that connection because they are interlinked. This I got from the OPEC fund. It was done in a conference we attended in Moscow this year for the petroleum people, all the companies and countries that are producers of petroleum and the major users. This was interesting for me because these are the energy deficit countries. And you see where India is. You see where Nigeria is. You see Bangladesh. But what was interesting, some of these were around the table, oil and gas producers, but they also have huge numbers of people without energy. Look at the cooking solution, same thing. So I was in the room, it's not my own usual community, and I picked their own graph and put it up and see you can end this. Because a number of you in this lower half are all countries now with oil and gas. How come your people live in darkness? Was the question I posed. I wanted to talk about Africa later, but let me talk a little bit about Asia. Some of you have read the Asia 2050 report of the Asian Development Bank. They did it about 2.5 years ago, still relevant. Many of us use it. Asia 2050 was looking at Asia from the eyes of Asian experts and Asian policymakers. What will Asia look like in 2050? Very good projection. You're supposed to be the most prosperous region by 2050. Over 50% of global GDP output will be in Asia. You will be the powerhouse of the world. But they say it's not guaranteed. It depends on the pathway you take. Second, there will be about 3 billion more Asians moving into the middle class. Very rich. Per capita income between $6,000 to $10,000. That's a lot of money. But those middle class people will demand more cars, more televisions, more of everything. More skyscrapers, more housing. Minister, I don't know if it is true. I think India, I heard that 2/3 of the housing needed by Indians by 2035 or 2040 has not been built yet. Very true. So you will be building more houses, more skyscrapers. I also know from OPEC, when they're projecting energy demand, they look at India and China, the number of cars on the highway. You'll be demanding many more cars. Of course, the question many of us say to Europeans and Americans is, when you talk climate change, are you asking our Asian and Indian middle class not to consume as well as you? Of course, that's not acceptable, right? If you have enjoyed it for 150 years, the Indians and the Asians should also enjoy a good life, because that's what we guarantee them. A lot of air conditioning, nice cars, maybe a BMW, and the nano car parked in the corner for the kids as well. But the reality is, and this is not me speaking, this is what is in the Asia 2050 report. If you consume materials the same way others have done, there's not going to be enough space for everybody else. There will not be enough resources. So we must be thinking about sustainable production and consumption systems that do not exist today, and hence alternative development pathways. It is not because of charity. It is because you want to make sure that when it is your turn to live a good life, you're living a good life and not inhaling somebody else's pollution. You want to live a good life so that your low-lying areas are also not disappearing, as is happening around some of your neighbors in the Indian Ocean and, of course, in Africa. But many of the statistics show that Asia, indeed, will be the powerhouse for industrial production, and in fact, will also have the highest demand for energy going forward. How are you going to meet that demand? Well, let me show you the other side, where I come from. Africa. We're about 1 billion today. 700 million of our people below 30, 35. When I said this in India 4 or 5 years ago, one of your ministers said to me, Mr. Yumkela, for us in India, that's going to be a demographic dividend. Young, vibrant population to produce for the rest of the world. I hope our people will be skilled enough as well. But these are challenges we will face in Africa. In fact, the additional 2 billion people that we're going to add by 2050, 1 billion of them will be added from Africa. How do we create jobs and opportunity for them? How do we create inclusive growth? How do we make sure those 620 million today and the additional have electricity and access to energy? Big challenge, and I see you have some of the same challenges, rapid urbanization. I hear from my readings that the Asian urban population will double to over 3 billion by 2035, 2040. We have the same challenge in Africa, highly urbanized, more housing, more of everything. But look at what we're doing now, 750 million mobile connections within 15 years. In other words, we Africans are beginning to leapfrog into new technologies. Will we leapfrog into renewable energy? Will you leapfrog into alternative energy sources as well? This is a picture from my village. A woman carrying firewood on the head, and she's pregnant. That's the reality of many women. Of course, I have pictures from Asia and everywhere else. That's the life of women in many, many poor communities. And of course, I mentioned for you the mortality rates. That's also the situation with cooking. I mentioned that. But you can change that. You can use liquefied petroleum gas, an alternative source of energy. The Malaysians have advanced a lot in doing that, almost 99% penetration. You need a lot of these solutions in India. We know in India about 700 million still using biomass as primary energy source, and especially for cooking. This is a picture you may not have in India, but it's part of the evidence of the inequality and sometimes injustice of the world. This is one of Africa's most lucrative oil and gas production location in the world. In Africa, but also in the world. Look at what is happening at night. The kids do not have electricity in their homes. Everything is dark. So they're playing soccer under the gas that is being flared. That gas has been flared for 50 years. That is gas that could have been used for power generation. That is gas that could have been processed for fertilizer. This is still going on today. Even though it's been reduced, it's still going on. We want to end it. These were numbers I put together for India. You're familiar with them. OPEC, one of the estimates from OPEC, as they're looking at demand for oil and gas. This is OPEC Petroleum Outlook 2013. You can see it there. They believe the Indian population could exceed China by 2021, maybe 2030. But yes, you'll be very populous. So it means demand for many things. Those without electricity, those using biomass. But you have to build many more cities. Maybe there will be smart cities. I think that's what Minister is trying to drive. Smart cities, more innovation, maybe more electric cars, different urban planning, designs. I know Chennai is doing very well on wind. Perhaps that experience will go to other parts of the world, but also part of the rest of India. I also know that His Excellency the Prime Minister has set a clear target. As Minister said, determination, decisiveness, and direction. He wants to end energy poverty. I had the privilege of going to Gujarat in February. I did visit the desert. I did look at some of the technologies there that he's already been able to do as governor of that region, and some innovation, covering some of those canals with solar panels, having a dual benefit, reducing evaporation, but also providing solar technology for the rest of the community. My point is, India creates a huge opportunity for the world if India can achieve this target that the Prime Minister has set. It's a huge market opportunity, a great opportunity for introducing alternative energy solutions for almost 400 million people. You could lead the green energy revolution of the world. You could be the leaders of the new energy sources of the world, because that's a huge market. That's almost the market of Europe. That's big. So I see these challenges as an opportunity for innovation, investments, and the green energy revolution. Remember, you led, my PhD is in agricultural economics. So I spent many hours reading about the innovativeness of Indians in leading the green revolution for food security. I believe you can also lead the new green energy revolution with the innovation from your institutions. One of them I'm in. Given all of these challenges, what is the solution? That's what we propose. The solution, we believe, is sustainable energy for us. We created one narrative, energy access as the driver or energy security, with 3 global targets. Achieve universal access to energy by 2030. Double the annual rate of energy efficiency improvement by 2030. That can lower emissions by almost 40%, just like that, using energy differently. And thirdly, doubling the share of renewables. That's where Professor Jagadeeswh and others are trying to innovate and come up with those technologies to double the share of renewables. Not easy to do. Not easy to do, but what have we achieved? If you look at the Millennium Development Goals, no mention of energy. If you look at the first World Summit on Sustainable Development, 92, no mention of energy, or maybe slight mention. 10 years after that, Rio +10 in South Africa, still energy was left out. We now have this as goal number 7 in the new Sustainable Development Goals they are negotiating right now. We've been able to put in strong advocacy with a lot of help from Indian politicians and NGOs as well. So energy is in, because we believe energy is central to sustainable development and, in fact, climate change. And all of this, which we've been campaigning on for about 5 years, all of this is in. And we define it as achieving, securing affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy services for all. Now you can see the politicians adding adjectives: affordable, reliable, modern. And all of that has to be negotiated in the next 1 year, and we expect to retain our position as goal number 7 in the post-2015 development agenda. So for me, I think after 5 years, my first political goal would have been achieved, again, thanks to many friends from India. I have also received commitments. The Secretary General has received commitments, all of us in Sustainable Energy for All, that we can reduce energy poverty by 50%. The European Union, as a group, have committed to connect 600 million people to modern energy services. Question is, what will be the technology of choice? President Obama has launched a Power Africa initiative to do 60 million connections. We did a rough calculation, 5 people per household, that's about another 300 million. If you take China and India, if they tackle energy poverty, it means indeed we can almost eliminate energy poverty within 15 years to 2 decades. It can be done. Of course, the technologies are done. And you'll ask me, why is it not happening? That's why Minister was talking about speed and scale. Why is it not happening? Why is it not happening fast enough? I'll come to that at the end of the discussion. The other area is energy efficiency. We have come up with a plan for energy efficiency in buildings, transport, and industry, and changing consumer behavior to in fact reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save people 250 to 325 billion a year. We have a plan for that. We put companies around it. And in fact, this is one of the things Mr. Minister will be taking to Gujarat in January for Prime Minister Modi's conference, the Vibrant Gujarat. We're bringing companies there to look at how we can incentivize investments in what we call energy efficiency accelerators. Some of what you mentioned in your presentation, what Infosys and others are doing. But we need to do a whole lot more. The business as usual puts us at 6 degrees. If we do this faster and create innovation, technology, and investment opportunities, we can still stay within 2 degrees, create prosperity for everybody. And India has an advantage because you have to build new cities anyway. Can you leapfrog and create new business opportunities for your companies, but also joint ventures for others? So why is all of this not happening at scale? The reality is energy issues are political. Some people don't like politicians. You better love them. Because whatever you do, you need them anyway. Energy systems have not moved as fast as we want on innovation and other things because of this. You need to align 4 Ps. Politics matters. The right politician will have the right vision. Today in India, your government says, we want to end energy poverty. They set a vision and they're determined to do it. Question, can they now create the public policy you need through Parliament to be able to create the right regulation, the right incentives to get the private sector to come in and invest? Governments cannot do this. I give you a figure. To achieve universal access to energy, we need 40 to 50 billion investment every year. Today, all the government investment going in is about 9 billion from development aid. So aid money is not enough. The rest you have to mobilize from private sector. How do you leverage that capital? Pricing. I showed you the subsidy levels. 500 billion used to subsidize existing energy systems. All the subsidies in renewable energy is 80 billion. You're playing with the market. You're changing the incentives. So people stay with the old system they know, and therefore they will pollute more. How do you align the pricing to incentivize movement into renewable energy and more energy efficiency for consumers and others to use energy differently? And finally, as I said, public-private partnership. If we don't have this, we will not have the speed and the scale we need to innovate and have this new energy revolution we're all looking for. Finally, to do this, there is no one-size-fits-all. You need the big energy projects, centralized, grid-based energy projects, whether it's generated by concentrated solar or other means, but you need it. At the same time, you need bottom-up solutions. There are simple solutions today developed by Dr.A.Jagadeeswh and others around the world that you can disseminate quickly. In fact, I come here to look for those ideas to take to Africa regularly, every year. Sometimes I go to different locations in India, just looking at how your people have been applying these technologies to help women and communities. So it is there, but you need to scale that up. We need to have clear vision documents, action agendas for countries towards 2030 with clear plans as to how they will move along that low carbon trajectory. And of course, investment plans, bankable projects, and the necessary seed capital to really draw down the risk, because these are still risky business. When I talk to bankers, they say, look, we can easily finance an oil company because they have a 40-year history. A new renewable energy company, 3 years, we have to wait a little bit. So we are not able to bring in more capital unless we can de-risk the investments. These are some of the issues we deal with. That's part of my own vocation. I have tried to evangelize energy around the world for the past almost a full decade now, on the road continuously. I was explaining my schedule to our visitors from Thailand, where I have been and where I have to go the next 3 weeks. 4 more locations within the period of 6 days. This is what I do. I evangelize on energy, pushing the agenda for politicians to take the bold decisions they take. For example, the Germans have taken a bold decision to change their energy mix. The Norwegians are doing the same. India has now set a clear target to end energy poverty. Unless you have that decisiveness, boldness, and creativity at the national level and global level, we cannot have the energy revolution. Finally, to close, I want to recognize 3 people who have also inspired me. Many Indians have inspired me, but I just mentioned 3 who are in the room. Dr. Arachi used to be my principal advisor at UNIDO, continues to be a good friend. Kashmir Raj, the story is that this young man was cheeky enough to think that at early 40s he can be a Director General of the United Nations coming from a small village in Africa. But when I visited him at XLRI, he gave me confidence when I was campaigning that you can do anything you put your mind to. And that day he was given an honorary doctorate to Azim Premji, and I was the keynote speaker. Thank you, sir. I also have Professor Damodaran in the room. Professor Damodaran, 13 years ago, he came as a consultant from India to Nigeria when I was working there, and he taught me about micro and mini hydro. And through him, I visited China to understand more, and that gave me more confidence in my energy work. Again, once again, thank you for giving me this honor. I know it's an inspiration, Minister. You're telling me I have to go do some more work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your enthralling lecture. It was indeed very informative and inspiring. Thank you, sir. I now request the dignitaries to please take the seats on the dais. Please, excuse me. In the moment. I request Dr. M. Kella to honor Dr. M.Y.S. Prasad. I request Dr. M. Kella to honor Dr. Alam Apparao. Remove that shawl, remove that shawl from there. Thank you, sir. I now call upon Dr.A.Jagadeeswh, Director, Nayudamma Center for Development Alternatives, to announce the
An exclusive award for rural development, because Nayudamma believed in science for the people. And we could not find a better choice than Madam Deepa Venkat, who is doing excellent work in Swarna Bharat in giving technical skills at the rural areas. At the same time, she is also running one school which has carved a niche in short time. In fact, I didn't find time, otherwise I would have taken Yamukala sir to that school. Maybe the next visit you'll be very happy to visit. In fact, for her meritorious service, we have instituted this award for the first time.
To present this award, Srimati Deepa Venkat, Managing Trustee of Swarna Bharat and Correspondent Akshara School, Venkatachalam, Nellore District.
So this year onwards also we have instituted a small award, Young Scientist Award. I request our Honorable Minister to present the award.
Organizers. I thank Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu, Honorable Minister, Urban Development Function. Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. M. Kella, UN Under Secretary General, for delivering the 20th Nayudamma Memorial Lecture in a manner befitting and consenting to accept the Nayudamma Award 2014. I thank Dr. M.Y.S. Prasad, Distinguished Scientist and Director SDSC, for gracing the occasion as guest of honor and for sharing his valuable thoughts. I thank Dr. Alam Apparao, Director CR Rao, AIMSCS, for being part of this function as guest of honor and for his valuable address. I thank Srimati Deepa Venkat for gracing this occasion and accepting the award. I thank Director CLRA for his support for conductance of this program. I thank Dr. J. Raghavrao, Chief Scientist CLRA, Dr. T. Narasimhaswamy, Senior Principal Scientist CLRA, PRO CLRA, and all other support services of CLRA for making this program a grand success. I thank Dr. Javamalai, former Special Advisor to Director General UNIDO, for his kind cooperation. I thank Nick Anthony and his wife from Phuket, Thailand, who are part of the Renewable Energy Delegation to India, for their valuable presence here. Thank you, sir. I thank Rajiv Gandhi Memorial College of Engineering and Technology, Nandyal, for their cooperation. And I thank the press and media and one and all present here for your presence. Lastly, I'll fail in my duty if I don't thank Dr. A. Jagadeeswh, who is the man behind this function. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support. Thank you, one and all. To honor the minister present here.
Nice.